Daf Zayin and Aleph will begin Daf Vav and Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. We were holding in the middle of the discussion about bittul, that we do the bittul after the bedika. Why is the bittul done in the night before? Why can't the bittul be done closer to the time of Isser? So, fragt the Gemara, v'nifsel ba'arba, v'nifsel b'chamesh, granted that we can't be mevatel the chametz after the 6 hours because it's also b'hano, and the person does not own the chametz, but the Torah put it in his reshus, but he doesn't own it, so he's not able to be mevatel it. But why can't he mevatel on the 4th hour of the day or the 5th hour of the day? Why does he have to mevatel it so early? More answers came to Lavzman Isurahu, since this is not the time of Isser, Lavzman Biurahu, it's not the time of Biur, so there's no clear demarcation, there's nothing to really remind him, there's no point in time that a person should therefore remember, oh, he has to make bittul. We're afraid he'll be peshe, he'll be negligent, and he won't do the bittul. Therefore, we make it at a clear time when, after he does the bedika, then he does the bittul. Frag the Gemara, well, why can't he do the bittul at the beginning of the 6th hour? Why does it have to be done so early? The beginning of the 6th hour is the time for bir chomet, so there's a clear demarcation point. And person will therefore know he has to do the bittul. Why make it so early? The Gemara says no. Since the beginning of the 6th hour there's an Isser D'Rabbanan, he's not able to do bittul k'deraisa dami. It's like it would be like the Isser D'Oraisa, just like you say at the end of the 6th hour he cannot make bittul because there's an Isser D'Oraisa. It's not in his reshus, the chametz is not his reshus to enable him to do bittul. So too, at the beginning of the 6th hour, even though it's only also midrabanan, so it's D'Oraisa dami v'la b'reshus kaim, and it's not in his possession anymore. V'lo matzeh mavtal, and he cannot v'lo matzeh mevatal, he can't make bittul anymore at that time. And the Gemara brings a raya to it. Amar of Gidol, Amar Rav Chia, Amar Bichi Bar Yosef, Amar Rav HaMekadish Meshei Shoes L'mal of a person Mekadish Nish from the 6th hour and on. So the way Rashi learns is from the 6th hour, meaning the beginning of the 6th hour, when there's an Isser D'Rabbanan, Afil B'chite Kudanais. Even we were talking about wheat from that region, from Kudanais, from Kardu, that region. That type of wheat is very hard. So if it comes in contact with water, it's, the way Rashi is learning, it's very slow to become chametz. So therefore, it's afil chita kurdanais, and even though it's not so clear that it became chametz, and it's the beginning of the 6th hour, ein cheshim al kedushin. We're not cheshish al kedushin. Why are we not cheshish al kedushin? Because we say that since it's also al kol panim, it's in any event also midrabanan. This chita kudanais is in any event it's also midrabanan, and even though it's the 6th hour, which is also midrabanan, but it's seif kol seif, it's chomesh, which is also midrabanan. We're not chayshish for kedushin because it's not considered his. We don't consider it like he owned it. So Rashi explains that I'm midaraisa if it's not chametz. And it's not Zman Ism D'Oraisa, why aren't we Cheshish L'Kedushin? Why, in Minatayra, we should consider it to be his ownership. We should consider that he owns it, and he's giving the woman something of value that has value Mid'Oraisa that can be used. That's Mutar B'Hana. Rashi explains that Kol Mekadosh Adaita the Rabbanan Mafki L'Kedushin. And since the Rabbanan didn't want this kedushin to take place, the person is not intending, therefore, to mekadosh the isha. And additionally, hefker bez and hefker, the bez and the Rabbanan have the power, they have the koyach to be mafker something, to take away the ownership from a person. So it's not considered like he even gave her anything that he owns. That's the way Rashi learns. The Taisus, however, learns that no, when we say Mekadosh Mishesh Shoes L'mal, Sheish Shoes normally means the end of the 6th hour, not the beginning of the 6th hour. The end of the 6th hour is an Isser time where it's also Midaraisa. So what's the proof? The way Taisus learns is, but Chite Kurdenaisa never becomes chometz d'oraisa. So even though it's at the end of the 6th hour, but it's not chometz d'oraisa because since it's hard, it never really becomes chometz minatera. It's also midrabanan. So again, it's chometz which is also midrabanan, and you see though that nevertheless he's not considered to be the owner of it. And similarly over here, you cannot do bittul and during the 6th hour. Frankly, Gemara, you're telling me that after the 6th hour, when there's an Isser Daraisa, or for the Chometz, when it's also Midaraisa, you're telling me you can't do Bittul. I will have Isur Le you can't do Bittul. Vahatani, we learn the Braisa, you actually base of Medrash, a person was saying the base of Medrash, for Niska, Shiesh, Chometz, Pesach, Beisai, and he reminded himself that he had Chometz in his house. Milvatloi Beliboy, he does Bittul in his heart. He can do Bittul. Echad Shabbos ve'echad Yontov, whether it's Shabbos or Yontov, he can do bittul. Now, doesn't this show you that he's doing bittul after it's already Osir? How's that? Bishlam Shabbos, it's not approved because you could say Mishkachos like you're going to Chal Arbos earlier. It's b'Shabbos. It could be talking where it's Shabbos, it's Erev Pesach, and it's Kaidem Zman HaYisr. So that wouldn't be a raya. However, El Yontov, what do you mean? It's on Yontov. That means it's Yontov. It's already after the Zman of Yisr. It's already Yontov time. It's already Tesvav Nisan. So Basar Yisurahu, it's after the Zman of Yisr, and yet he's doing bittul. So don't you see from here that you could do bittul even after the Zman of Yisr? Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Hacha b'Talmud Yeshiv Fnei Rabbi Skin. We're talking about a Talmud. He's learning in front of his Rebbe. V'niskar sheyesh yisam b'Gelos b'Seich Beisai, and he reminded himself that he has dough that was needed in his house. U'mitziyar Hashem etachlis. And he's afraid that it will become chametz. Meaning it's not chametz yet. He's afraid that it will become chametz. And he makes the bittul before it becomes chametz. So he's mevatel it, he nullifies it before it becomes chametz. So when it becomes chametz, it's not his anymore. The bittul has already taken place. But if it already is chametz and it's zman yisr, you can't make bittul. But here we're talking, yes, it's zman yisr, but it's not yet chametz. Dekanami, you can bring a deed to this because it says that the Talmud was in the base of Medrash. Shmamina. We see a raya from this that it's not yet chometz. What's the raya? What's the diuk? Because if it was talking about that it's chometz gomor, what's the point of saying that it's in the base of Medrash? If it's chometz gomor, there's nothing else that can be done with it. It's already chometz. It has to be. You'd have to make bittul. Elamai is saying that it's not yet chametz. It's not yet chametz. Now, if he wouldn't be in the base of medrash, not for the fact that it's in the base of medrash, he has an eitzah. He doesn't have to make bittul. He doesn't have to remove it. He has another eitzah. He can bake it before it becomes chametz. So we're talking where it's not yet chametz. Now, if he wouldn't have been in the base of medrash, he would have an eitzah. Bake it, so it never becomes chametz. But he's in the base of medrash. He can't leave. He's there in front of his Rebbe. So what is his eitzah now? He makes his mevatel it before it becomes chametz. There is a lengthy discussion in the Rishonim about the whole nature of bittul, because it says over here in this brisa, it says mevatel b'liboy. He makes bittul in his leiv, in his heart. So it's much from here that for bittul you don't have to speak it out. Now, this is a whole discussion in the Rishonim. Does bittul have to be done b'peh? Do you have to speak it out, or can you do it in your heart? It's much from here that you can do it in your leiv. You can do it in your heart. Another point that we see from here is what is the nature of bittul? Taisa says bittul is mitam hefker. The Ramban asks on that. He says, you see from here that it's not mitam hefker, because hefker has to be expressed. It's b'peh. And here you can do bittul b'leiv. And also, why does it use the lashon of bittul? Why not use the lashon of hefker? So the Ramban says it's not hefker. What it means is you mevatel it, you show that it's not important to you, you're not machshav it, and therefore, even though we say that this chametz is essentially not in your rishus, on chametz and the Torah put it in your rishus, but where does it put it in your rishus? Only if you're machshav it. But if you're mevatel, the Torah never put it in the rishus. Meaning, according to Ramban, it's not hefker per se, it's by being mevatel, you're showing that you consider it to be not important, you consider it to be after the hara, and therefore the Torah doesn't put it in your rishus because you're not machshav. The Gemara continues, Amar Rav Rav Huna Amar Rav Apal She'ibsha. If you have bread, you found it on Pesach and it's spoiled. So it's spoiled, it's moldy, and you can't tell if this is chametz or matzah. So we're talking about a box, a container that's used for chametz during the year, and for Pesach, it's used for matzah. And we'll see that there was also, the person did a bedikas chametz, he did bedikas chametz on Leil Yud Daled, and now he finds on Pesach, he finds this bread over here, it's spoiled. He doesn't know if it's chametz or if it's matzah. So we say, kim shiramsa matzah. That if we say that the majority of what's put in the box is matzah, then muteres, then it's muter. And we go basar roiv, and therefore we say, since roiv, the majority is matzah, then it's muter. What's the case? The chametz, if he knows that it's chametz, ki ravsa matzah ma'hav. If there's a majority of matzah, what's the difference? If he knows it's chametz, it's chametz. Elamai, you're telling me you can't recognize from the piece that is it matzah or is it chametz. It's not recognizable. Keep in mind that in the earlier days, matzah was not made the way it's made today, thin, wafer-like, cracker-like pieces. Today, it's very clear the difference between the bread and matzah. In those earlier days, the matzah was thick. So, he doesn't know whether it's chametz or matzah. Well, why are you saying it's mutter? If the majority is matzah, then you go ask for the roiv. Even if it's not the majority, nezel basar basra, we should apply the principle of going basar basra. We follow the last use in the container. Meaning, why do you say you have to rely on roiv? You don't have to rely on roiv. Another way of learning it is that not only why do you say you have to rely on roiv, that if you can go basar basar, it even outweighs the roiv. So what is the principle of nezel basar basar? We say that whatever it was used for last, that would determine what the item is. So therefore, a person used it during the year for chametz. He did a bedikas chametz. Now, he's using it now for matzah. He finds it on Pesach. Well, the last usage of the box was matzah. So he's therefore can assume that this piece, even though it's not recognizable, he could assume, even without relying on the roiv, he could assume it's matzah. Didn't we learn the following Mishnah Shkolim, which shows you this principle? Of that we go basar basra, we learn malas shenim sulfnei soicher behema. If you find money, you find coins in front of the animal dealers in Yerushalayim. We always treat it as meiser. Now, people used to come to the oil regel. They came to Yerushalayim. They used to bring with them either their Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni has to be eaten in Yerushalayim. So either they brought the produce, they brought the Meiser Sheni, or if it was too difficult to transport it, they redeemed it, they exchanged it for money, and they brought the money. So they used to have, on the Regolium, the roy money was Meiser Sheni because people used to bring all their coins for Meiser Sheni and buy food with it in Yerushalayim. What they couldn't consume, and frequently there was too much to consume it just during the regel, they used to give it to family or other people in Yerushalayim, and therefore the people had an abundance of the Ma'as of Meiser Sheni. What did they do with it? In most cases, they used that Ma'as of Meiser Sheni to buy behemoths to be makra for their korbanos for shlomim. So therefore, in front of the animal dealers, the majority of the coins, even during the year, even not during the regel, were mois of Meiser Sheni, were the money of Meiser Sheni, because that's what most of the money was used for to buy these behemoths. Therefore, you had to treat it with the kedusha of Meiser Sheni. So we say la'olam over there during the year, even during the whole year, it's Meiser Sheni. But harabayis, if it's found in the harabayis, we say it's chulin. In harabayis, it's chulin. It's considered to be chulin. We treat it as to be chulin because most of the money during the year was not Meiser Sheni. And therefore, even though during the regular was, but the raiv, the majority will tell you that it's therefore not Meiser Sheni. But Yerushalayim, outside the Harabayas, in the area of Yerushalayim, where it's not in front of the mois of the Seichri Behema of Yerushalayim, Mishalsa Regel, if it's time during the time of the Regel, then we say Meiser. Since most of the money during the time of the Regel is Meiser Sheni, we treat it as Meiser. So you find the money lying around, you treat it as Mos of Meiser Sheni. Bishar Yamayis Hashana Chulin. But during the rest of the year, we treat it as Chulin. We treat it as Chulin. V'amar of Shemai Bar Zera, my time. Why do we say that the money found in Shalim during the Regel is Meiser Sheni? If you're telling me that the majority during the year, the most of the money is Maus of Chulin, well, why shouldn't you say you go Basar Roiv? Just like in the Harabayas. You say you found it in Harabayas, that if the money is found in Harabayas, we say that it's Chulin. It's always considered to be Chulin. Why? Because most of the money during the year, the majority of the money is Chulin. So in sum total, most of the money in Yerushalayim, most of the money in Harabayas is Chulin. So why do we say in Yerushalayim it depends on the Shalsa Regel or not? So he said, because Hoil V'Shuka Yerushalayim assume this kabin b'chol yom. Because since in Yerushalayim they used to sweep the streets every day, so whatever was there from prior to the Regel, which we would in Hanami assume to be Chulin, but that was removed. What's used now on the Regel, the Basra, the latest one that was used on the Regel, there the majority is Meiser. So therefore in Yerushalayim we go Basra, and the last one that was used, the latest usage was Meiser, therefore it's deemed to be Meiser. Now in Harabayas, they didn't sweep the streets of the Harabayas b'chol yom, because Harabayas was on a slope, so they didn't need to. The dirt, the mud would all roll down. Secondly, people did not come at the Harabayas with shoes or with dirty feet. So therefore, they didn't sweep it. Therefore, you have to go Basar the Roiv of the whole year. And the Roiv is Chulin. So you treat it as Chulin. This is not the kasha. How do you find money in Harabayas? You're not allowed to bring your money belt in the Harabayas. This answers, that's only, you're not allowed to bring the money in revealed. We're wearing a money belt where it's exposed, it's begoli. But put it hidden away, it's mutter. So they did come in with money, it's just it was underneath their garments. It wasn't on a money belt which was exposed, because that's derech bizayin. But al kol panim, you see almamrina kamoi azala, you see that the earlier ones have been removed, and these are new ones. Here also with the bread box, you should say the earlier ones, the chometz has been removed. And this piece that you found now is the current one, and it's Pesach, so therefore it's matzah. More answers, no. We don't rely on the Basra over here, and we say we rely on the Roiv because here we're talking in a case where it's exceedingly moldy. It's very old, so it's moichiach. It proves that it's from before. Well, that's the case. That it's very spoiled. So, what does it make a difference? Even if you have a roiv matzah, why should it make a difference? But this indicates, this piece shows you that it's very old. It's from before Pesach, so it's chometz. Don't say what it means that there's a majority of pieces which are matzah. What it means to say is that it's a few days of Pesach, the Rabba Yemei matzah. That's already after Pesach began. It's into Pesach, so there's enough time that this could have become this old and this moldy, even if it was matzah. There's several days of matzah, of Pesach rather, that have passed, and therefore the fact that it's moldy doesn't show you that it's from before. It could have come on Pesach. There's enough time that it could have developed this mold on Pesach, and therefore we would say we can rely that it's matzah. There's nothing to indicate that it was dafka from before, and therefore you should rely on the last usage of it, which would be matzah. Frankly, well, of course, then it's pasha. There's no reason to think otherwise. You did the bedikas chometz, and this is therefore can assume to be matzah. Mora says, lo yitzricha de ipusha meruba. It means that it's very moldy. is a very, very moldy. So the same you might say that since there's that degree of spoilage, that would indicate to you that it certainly would be chometz kamash malan. We say nevertheless, no, since it's Rabbi Yemei Matzah, since there's so many days of Pesach, it could, even though it was so moldy, it could have occurred during Pesach. We say that every day he put fresh, warm matzah onto it. Now the heat, the warmth, cause it to spoil faster. So therefore, I'd say that and he put the warm matzah on top of it, and therefore it spoiled greater and faster, and there was more spoilage, and therefore we can still assume it to be matzah. Gemara continues, is it really true that we follow the last use of the item? We learned the Brisa, Rabbi Yosef bar Yehuda Omer, Teva shenishtam shebo mois chulin mois meiser. If you have a box that was used both for the money of meiser sheni and for chulin, it was used for both. Imroi chulin chulin, imroi meiser meiser. We say whatever the majority of the money was, we go after the majority. If most of the money was used in the box, that it was placed in the box was chulin, it's chulin. If most of the money put in the box is meiser, it's meiser. Why don't we follow the last usage? Meaning, we're assuming that a person doesn't just put in a box chulin and meiser, because then they get mixed together and he doesn't know which is which. So we're assuming, therefore, he uses the box both for chulin and meiser, but not at the same time. He uses, for instance, chulin, then he removes the chulin, he uses it for meiser. He removes the meiser and he puts in chulin. Now, we say over here, well, we follow the majority. If most of the money that was put into the box is chulin, it's chulin. If most meiser, well, why don't we say basra? What was the last use of it? If he cleared out, for instance, the chulin, and then he put in the meiser, now you open the box, you find in money, assume it's meiser, and vice versa. Why do you go basar roy? Omar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, he answers, the box was used for both meiser and for chulin, but he doesn't know which one was used, the last one. Rav Zvi Amar Kohen Shishtam Shabbat Siburim Siburim. He says the case is talking where it was used at the same time, not one after the other. It was used at the same time. And they were put in bundles and piles, one in one corner and one in the other corner. And therefore, the case is talking about where they're both used at the same time, but bundles in different corners. Now, he found money not in any of the bundles. And therefore, you don't know which bundle it came from or where it came from. Or he found money in the box where there were no bundles. So therefore, we don't know. It's not a question of what the last usage was, because they're both used at the same time. So you go basar roiv. Rapapa marks we're talking where the coin was found in a hole. So therefore, yes, you could be talking that one was used after the other. He used meiser, chulin, meiser. But what happens is he uses it for, let's say, meiser, he clears it out, he uses it for chulin, and then vice versa. But here he found money in a hole. So we're chayshish that when he cleared it out, this money he didn't find. He didn't clear out this money because it was in a crevice or in a corner, a hole. So therefore, we're chayshish over here, maybe it's not from the one that was used last, maybe it was from before, and when he cleared it out, he didn't find it. But really, therefore, in any event, we say that we do follow the principle, we go basra, and we follow the last usage of the item.